with that being said, happy belated July 4th. July 4th is a very important holiday to our country. It's a very important holiday to a lot of us, and it's something that we tend to celebrate in a lot of different ways at Justice Southbury. This year, I am very excited to bring back one of our regular speakers, who's absolutely always fantastic. Deb Brody, would you like to come up and share? Oh, of course.
How do I do
Just
this?
do it right. I can do it for you if you like.
Yeah, please.
There you
Thanks. Okay. Hi, folks.
You might have to get a little closer, because we don't have a sound
Yeah.
system.
Can folks hear me okay? Okay, well, I'll try to be real loud. All right, so I want to actually springboard off of what Jeremy shared with us. I was actually there that night, too. It was awesome. Because it's an epitome of local action, and it's an epitome of what happens when people come together and faithfully say what is needed and what they believe. On June 30th, I attended an online webinar called Disappeared in America. It was a training for how to talk to your sheriff. And this training was aimed also at helping people be equipped to do local collective action to give some protection to their neighbors who might be targeted by ICE. And so I wanted to attend, and I did, and I received a lot of materials afterward. I received a recording of the entire webinar. I also received the slides that were shown in the webinar, which were very useful. Sadly, I don't have them with me. Anyway, and also links to even more specific resources and toolkits for how to actually implement this training in our own locality. So I did put all of those things together, and I've sent them to Rick, and absolutely, please, I hope he will feel free to send them on to anybody who wishes them. It's a lot more than I can cover in a single conversation with you all. But what I want to talk about is I learned some things. One thing that I learned is, although this was about talking to your sheriff, here in Connecticut we don't have sheriffs. So that made me wonder, well, you know, how can I apply this? How can I apply this here? And after going through a whole bunch of different resources online, mostly from the state website of the state of Connecticut and so forth, I came up with a little bit of information about different official people in Connecticut who fulfill the role of a sheriff. And that is basically the state marshals, who are, believe it or not, independent contractors who are supervised by a commission in the executive branch, and then also judicial marshals, who are officers of the particular court that they are serving. So their duties include the ability to arrest people, they include transporting people, and for the judicial marshals, their duties also include maintaining security, you know, in the courthouse. So their role seems similar to a sheriff's role. So anyone, or if we as a group were wanting to implement this training, it would be worthwhile to find out who these people, who the marshals are for our area, for Southbury, and also who their direct supervisor is, so that we can contact them. Another thing that I learned in the webinar was that there are many different ways that local law enforcement, including like police districts, okay, state police and local police, collaborate with ICE, okay? You have formal collaboration and informal collaboration. And the formal collaboration has like 3 different types, and one is that they actually sort of integrate with ICE. Another is that they form a task force, and ICE can, you know, direct the task force to attend to certain things like apprehending people. And another form of collaboration is that individual units can be deputized by ICE to perform specific functions. So that was a little bit disturbing. Now, in Connecticut, we have the Trust Act, which on the books says that our law enforcement is not allowed to perform certain activities on ICE's behalf. And so, for example, our law enforcement cannot apprehend people on ICE's behalf and things like that. But I feel that the protection of the Trust Act is limited because, as we've all seen in California, which is a sanctuary state, in Los Angeles, which is a sanctuary city, ICE is doing what it pleases. And the local law enforcement there is just, they're not doing anything. Now, one reason is that there's no laws that mandate that the local law enforcement should get into a Mexican standoff with ICE. I don't think that's even feasible. For one thing, ICE has more firepower. But also, I think legally they can't give a local agency the authority to do that kind of thing. On the other hand, they are performing functions for ICE which they don't have to, but they're choosing to. And this is kind of goes under the informal thing. And this is something I think could happen in Connecticut, which is that when ICE is there apprehending people or making a sweep through a neighborhood, the local law enforcement is preventing the people who live there from interfering with ICE. And, you know, looking at it from 5,000 miles away, which is kind of a far distance, I'm wondering maybe the majority of the people in local law enforcement there are pretty much in sympathy with what ICE is doing, and they're not formally collaborating with them because the law for now says they can't. So this training is about doing as much as we can to contact with, build relationships with, and shift a little bit of the sentiment and sympathy of the people who would be in the position to either lend a hand to ICE, formally, informally, on the down low, okay, or to stop us from stopping ICE. So that's what this training is about. I'm very, very hopeful and grateful to you all, and glad to share it with everybody. And I guess that's really all that I wrote a whole bunch of stuff about how overwhelmed I am. I don't want to inflict that on y'all. I think everybody's feeling it. But there's just so much that's happening. And one thing I will share, I belong to the Democrats Club in Heritage Village. And one thing that I did stand up and say in our most recent meeting is that we need to find ways to materially obstruct what is happening in our country. We need to find ways to actually throw sand in the gears, make it harder for them. We can't stop them, but we can make it harder. And I think this training might help with that. One thing that I would love to do for people in law enforcement, I know it exists for people in the military, is get them resources for conscientious objecting. Okay, that, you know, so that they can feel that they have an avenue where they will have certain protection if they want to refuse to carry out what in their conscience they feel is an unlawful order. Okay, and we do have a lot of things going on in the courts that are trying to define how many of these orders are actually unlawful. It's all up in the air now. But that does create a space where people can say, until this has been adjudicated as lawful, I'm considering it unlawful and I'm not going to comply. So I would love to get resources of that nature, and that might be something also to share with our local law enforcement and our local marshal. Yeah. So that's all I have to say. God bless you all, and thank you so very much for being here.